Hey guys, welcome back to class. I hope that your break went well, Thanksgiving break, and now it's time to start solving by factoring. So if you remember last time, I know it might have been, if it's 8A, it's been a while since you've looked at it. But anyway, remember that solving a quadratic means to find where the parabola crosses the x-axis. And we learned that solutions also means to solve, which also means the x-intercepts, which also means the roots and zeros, and those all mean the same thing. So we solve by graphing. Now we're going to solve algebraically by factoring. So after that, tomorrow, or the next time you come back, we're going to do square root. And then whenever I get back, we'll do quadratic formula. So first, let's review solving by graphing with a calculator. So remember, I put this equation in y equals -1 divided by 2x squared minus x plus 4. Take a look at the graph, see how many times it crosses the x-axis, and it does cross twice, so I'm going to be looking for 2 zeros. Second, trace, which is calculate, go down to 0. Ask me left bound. I'm going to calculate this 0 first, so left bound will be somewhere over here. Bring your blanky cursor there, press enter. Now it asks me right bound. So I need to come somewhere over here without crossing the other x-intercept. Enter one more time. And x equals -4 for my first 0. Do this process again. Left bound's going to be over here. And right bound will be somewhere across the 0 on the other side. So my 2 arrows are pointing into this 1 0. Press enter one more time. My other 0 is 2. Now y'all do B on your own. So let's pause and y'all do B on your own. Do that one right there. Okay, we're going to first put our equation in y equals, so I'll have 2x squared minus 7x minus 3. I'm going to press second, trace, which is calculate, go down to 0. Oh, I skipped looking at the graph to see how many times it crosses, but oh well. Left bound's over here, enter. Right bound's down there, enter. Enter one more time. Now I need to do it for the other one. Left bound will be somewhere down here. And right bound will be somewhere over here. Okay, so let's move on to our new material. Today we're going to solve by factoring. So really this completely just builds on what you already know, which is how to factor. And then you're just going to do one extra step. So first you need to make sure your quadratic is in standard form, which is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Then you'll place y or f of x, whichever is there, with 0. Then you need to factor. And then set everything with an x in a little mini equation equal to 0 and solve for x. So you need to remember how to factor, factoring review. If you need to remember how to factor, I'm going to probably make another video or leave an address for a video to review you on factoring. So factoring this quadratic, x squared minus x minus 12. I'm going to separate, or first I'm going to replace y with 0. And now it's time to split this up. X squared splits into x and x, and then I've got to decide how to split 12 so that it will be a -12, and it will add to -1. So that's -4 and +3. Remember, your inside terms multiplied plus your outside terms multiplied will equal this middle term here. So sure enough, -4x plus x equals -3x excuse, oh my gosh, I'm out of it. Plus 3x equals negative x, which is my middle term. So it checks out. Now, we've already done factoring. We've been factoring for a long time. You may not, you may need to remember it, but we've been factoring. That's something you should be pretty used to. Now, you want to just set aside these two little mini equations. So x minus 4 equals 0 came from x minus 4 right here. X plus 3 equals 0 came from right here. Then you just solve for x. So x equals 4 and negative 3. Okay, so this one here, I first need to move it into standard form, which means the x squared is on the wrong side. So I moved it over here. And then I got y equals x squared plus 3x minus 18. And I inserted a 0 for y. Now it's time to factor. So I know my x squared only can split into x and x. Now I've got to think about how 18 can split so that it will give me a negative 18 when I multiply, but a positive 3 when I add. So that's going to be a positive 6 and a negative 3 because 6x plus negative 3x is 3x. Split them into my little mini equations. So I have x plus 6 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. Solve for x by subtracting 6, so x equals negative 6, and adding 3, so x equals positive 3. Okay, let's do this one. This one is our lovely shortcut. You need to recognize, after you replace 0 for y, that this is just difference of two squares, x squared minus 25. So it's going to split into x plus 5 and x minus 5. X is the square root of x squared. 5 is the square root of 25. One's plus, one's minus. Make your two little mini equations. You have x equals negative 5 and x equals positive 5. So you could say x equals negative 5 and 5, or plus or minus 5, however you want to look at it. Now let's look at this one. This one has a GCF. See how everything is divisible by 2. So that was my first step, to factor out the GCF of 2 in my factoring. Because step 3, when I factor, factoring includes looking for a GCF. So then I have x squared minus 10x plus 25. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to positive 25 and add to negative 10. So that would be negative 5 and negative 5. Because negative 5x plus negative 5x gives me negative 10x. Make my two equations, and I get the same thing. So what does that mean graphically? That means that this parabola is only crossing once. Now, when you're making your mini equations, if your GCF is a number, you don't need to give it a mini equation. But if you factor it out in x, you do, because one of your solutions will be x equals 0. Okay, so in this case, our GCF was a 2. I don't need to give it a mini equation, because think about it, if I did, it'd say 2 equals 0. Well, that's not true, so it's irrelevant. Okay. All right, time for y'all to give this a shot. So let's pause and try it on our own. Okay, first of all, this is not in standard form. I need to get everything on one side. So 4x squared minus 1 equals 0. Now, if I look at that, I can recognize that that's difference of two squares, because I have a perfect square minus a perfect square. So I can have 2x plus 1 and 2x minus 1. The 2 came from the square root of 4. The 1 came from the square root of 1. So I'm going to make my little mini equations. And I'm going to solve for x. So x equals plus or minus 1/2. Okay, y'all try this one. So let's pause. Try that one on your own. Okay, so my first step, I need to replace y with 0. Then I need to factor. X squared splits into x and x. 5 splits into 5 and 1. Because 5x plus 1x gives me 6x. And it also 5 times 1 multiplies to 5. They're both pluses. So x equals -1 and -5. Okay, y'all try this one on your own now. Okay, so my first step, I needed to subtract 24. Now I need to factor. -6 times +4 is -24. -6x plus 4x will give me a -2x. I'm going to add 6 to both sides, and I'll get x equals 6. Subtract 4 from both sides and get x equals -4. So x equals 6 and -4. Now there's something tricky on this one. So I want y'all to try it, and I'm curious if you can see the trick. It has to do with a GCF. Now, if I look at this problem, well, first let's replace f of x with 0. If I look at this, I see that all of these terms have an x. That's a GCF. So I need to factor that out. Now I'm at a point that I can factor what's left. So I'm going to factor all this in here. Factors this way because -4 times -5 equals +20. -4x minus 5x equals -9x squared. I'm going to make 3 mini equations. X equals 0. X minus 4 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. This one I add 4. This one I add 5. So x equals 0, 5, and 4. Okay, now y'all try this last one that has a leading coefficient. Start out by replacing y with 0. I know that 2x squared can only split into 2x and x. Now I got to decide how to split my 6. It's either going to be 2 and 3 or 6 and 1. Those are my only two combinations of 6 that I can work with. It's going to be 6 and 1 because I'll get a 1x in the center and a 12x on the outside. Remember, this last term multiplies against this first term. So 6 times 2x is 12x. 1 times x is x. And if they're both negative, they're going to add to -13. Make my little mini equations. x equals 1/2. So x equals 1/2 and 6. Okay, so now it's time for you to get started on your homework. Remember to use all of your resources to be successful. You can watch this video again online. You can go ask your colleagues for help. Your notes are a resource. We have tons of factoring examples that you can look at. And then also, hopefully I'll find a factoring video for you to review if you're having trouble. Or I'll make one. So anyway, hope everything's going well, and I will see y'all pretty soon. Y'all have a good day. See you later.